Vlatko Andonovski announcing his 23-player roster for upcoming World Cup and Olympic qualifying, of course starting in Mexico on July 4th. Kristin Press not on the list. Andonovski saying it wasn't the injury that kept her off either. More on that later. Other news, Megan Rapinoe and Alex Morgan are back. Tobin Heath is not. The injury absences on this list, not insignificant. No Sam Mewis, Abby Dahlkemper, Tierna Davidson, Lynn Williams, Katarina Macario. You can add Crystal Dunn to that list as well. She just gave birth. So the final list goes from 59 down to 23, which means some awfully tough choices. For more on those tough choices, we welcome into the show none other than Julie Foudy. Julie has been all over the place of late. She's been spending time, I think, at the Special Olympics. How was that?
So fun. Oh, I got my little hat on. It was so fun. It's such good needed perspective.
Absolutely. Looked like you had a great time there, judging from what we saw on television and social media. All right, let's talk about this roster. But before we get into kind of the individual decisions, let's look at it big picture. We've been talking about since the last Olympics, that this team needed a generational turnover. Was there enough of that turnover for you, Julie, in this roster from the team that we saw take home bronze in Tokyo?
Absolutely. This is all that Vlatko Andonovski has been geared towards since the Olympics, as we've seen. I mean, literally, this is the first time we've seen really a veteran presence. And I'm not sure you could say it's even a full veteran presence, of course. I don't think he's ever going to go back to that with this roster. So I do think he had to turn that page. We've talked a lot about the need to get younger, the need to get fresher, to bring in more energy. And I think he's done that. I mean, the test, of course, will be not in these June games, but how they do in the July double qualifier, which acts as both a World Cup and an Olympic qualifier.
Julie, aside from Kristin Press, there are some major surprises here for me. Megan Rapinoe in, Tobin Heath out. Which one surprises you more?
Definitely Megan Rapinoe in surprises me more. I mean, neither of the two have been playing. I didn't think either was going to get in, honestly. And Megan Rapinoe really just played her first half, this last week. So only 154 minutes on the season, hasn't seen hardly any time. It tells you that is how much Vlatko Andonovski values her leadership and what she brings to the team. Because when Megan Rapinoe was on the team, I tell you, there's a difference. You've heard young players say this all the time. There is a swagger to her that makes them feel confident. And I think that is what he's looking to bring into this qualifying phase because they're so young.
So it's interesting when we talk about Rapinoe, right? I think it's just 4 games so far in the NWSL regular season, maybe 154 minutes. It sounds from the press conference almost like Andonovski and her had an agreement, right? That, hey, as long as she was anywhere near in shape, she would get called back in for this. I found that to be very interesting. As far as a role moving forward, Julie, for Rapinoe, do you see her as still being a starter, or are we looking at Megan Rapinoe now as more of a super sub when we get to those games that really matter in the CONCACAF W Championship?
Yeah. No, I absolutely do not see her as being a starter in these next coming months. I mean, maybe if she gets some time back on the field with OL Reign and some minutes and can establish that. But no, she's been coming off injury and setbacks. And so, I mean, there's no way she's 90 minutes fit as a starter. And I think, what Megan Rapinoe brings, as we know, is this ability to come into a game and change a game and flip it on its head, whether it's through set pieces, whether it's through her individual skill. But we also know she can't do that for 90 minutes, nor does she knows she can't do it for 90 minutes. That's a conversation she had with Vlatko, and her saying, I'm okay with this role. I will work in a leadership capacity to make this team better in whatever role I have.
All right, let's get to the elephant in the room. It's Kristin Press. Obviously with a torn ACL, she wasn't going to be able to play in this tournament. But what's really interesting is what Vlatko Andonovski said in his press conference explaining the decision to leave Press off. Because as I said, it's not down to the injury. Here's what Vlatko Andonovski had to say. Kristin Press was not on the roster even before the injury. For Kristin to be back on the field, it's not just to do well or perform well in her club environment. It's also to outperform the players that she's competing against. And that would be players like Mallory Pugh, Sophia Smith, Alex Morgan, Ashley Hatch, and Trinity Rodman. All right, Julie, I was very surprised that Vlatko Andonovski, one, was so honest and said it this way, but that he also didn't have Kristin Press in his top 23. Do you think she deserved a spot in that top 23 based on what she'd done so far for Angel City?
I would have given her a spot if it was just based on, which is not, based on playing on that top 23 over Megan Rapinoe, because as we know, Megan Rapinoe, as we just discussed, isn't going to get a lot of minutes. But what it says to me is that he values, as we were saying earlier, the leadership of Megan Rapinoe over the leadership of Kristin Press and the minutes that Kristin Press could give him. And it also tells me that he's very confident, as he should be, in Sophia Smith and Mal Pugh and how they've been playing. Obviously, Alex Morgan is leading the league with 9 goals. You see Ashley Hatch doing well. She could score from so many different ways. And so I think that if the roster was going to be remade, the one I would leave off is Rapinoe and put Press in. But I also understand the leadership value of Rapinoe. And so I know that he got a lot of criticism on social media for how can you play this player when you've been saying, that they need minutes and they have to show at their club form. But what it says to me is I value the leadership of Rapinoe over the leadership of Press. And that is more important to me in this moment with these young players than getting Press some minutes, because he thinks he has enough already that's going.
Wow. Let's talk my favorite subject. Let's talk nines. Let's talk the forwards. Let's talk the center forwards, the important ones here. Katerina Macario, obviously that injury puts her out of the mix, but she has a different skill set that I thought was putting her in contention for a starting role. So with her out of the mix, who do you see starting in these qualifiers in that 9 position?
I think you put Alex Morgan back in there. Even though she's been playing on the left side for San Diego, we know she can play in the 9. She's not going to play in the style that Katerina Macario plays, because Kat loves to come deeper and play in almost a false 9 and make a lot more. You're going to get more slashing runs out of Alex Morgan. But she's playing well. She's confident. She's scoring goals. I think you have to start her in the 9, and then you're going to flank her with Mal Pugh on one side and Sophia Smith on the other. And that is a front 3 that is just a handful for any team to handle. And then you go to your bench and you got Midge Purce, you got Trinity Rodman, you got Ashley Hatch, you have another front 3 you could throw out there. So I think the United States, even without Press and even without a Megan Rapinoe who can go a lot of minutes, is in good shape up front.
I'm thinking about backup options here, behind somebody like Alex Morgan, and I'm wondering, what that option is, because before it would have been somebody like Katerina Macario, even if you went Morgan first.
Yeah.
But now there's got to be a backup option. To me, Ashley Hatch is the obvious one. Am I wrong there?
Yes. Yeah, Ashley Hatch, for sure. Yeah, and the thing that Vlatko Andonovski said about her today on the press conference was, hey, look, she can score goals, and she can score them from anywhere. She scores them quickly. She doesn't need a lot of looks. And she's clean in her finishing, and she can score in so many different ways. So I think absolutely Hatch is the natural 9 after Alex Morgan.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.